Right, so we're back. Rugby TTL podcast is back, and I couldn't be more glad to be back. And with the lineup that we got ahead, we've obviously got Buster and Ken, who haven't been able to join us tonight. Buster's not looking too great. He's feeling a little bit worse for wear with his work. Kent is, I think, on some Butlins weekend. Maybe I'm not 200% sure. It's half term. So obviously we have to put up with Adam. So Adam's here with us, which you guys probably have seen quite a bit throughout our grassroots rugby days, which I hope you guys are really enjoying. So as long as you can keep subscribing, liking, sharing, share the pod, share everything we're doing, it will only help grow the game. And Adam, thanks for joining us, mate. Just thanks for being part of the pod, mate, really, and everything you've done so far is really, really good, mate. And hopefully you're enjoying what you're doing and spreading the word of the grassroots game.
Yeah, loving it, mate. It's been a pleasure to be on board so far. It's been interesting to see rugby through a different lens. I'm sure it's been the same for you, but coming at it from the approach of one, from trying to grow the game, and two, trying to convey the messages of what's going on at these great clubs that we've visited and get it across in a meaningful way, in a way also that people are going to find entertaining. We hope has been really good. It's been a bit of a learning curve, particularly going from your first one. When especially when your first one, you've got gale force winds, torrential rain.
Hiding in a shipping container to make sure you don't get washed away.
Absolutely. So I think I think that was you going right. Let's chuck him straight in the deep end. But no, I mean,
Quite literally, by the sounds of it, with the weather that
yeah,
was out there.
the deep end. That was one end of the pitch. No, it was great. To be fair, it was really good one down at Hookenodin versus Gosport Tattoos. Everyone was brilliant, really welcoming, great club, and the pitch wasn't, despite the weather, was really good. I had a chat with the groundsman down there, so yeah, fair play to him for his hard work. But yeah, loved it, and we've kind of seen, finally had a bit of good weather this weekend, which has been nice. So the Adam curse has been lifted. I think it was actually lifted a few weeks before, wasn't it? But
Weren't your pod? That was.
oh yeah, no, you're right. Yeah. One pod isn't going to equal a trend, but no, it's been great. Yeah, and we've done some local bits and bobs. I know you've been, fighting the good fight over in Spain, covering a lot of games. I think you're down in Portugal as well, weren't you? And had a little trip over to Guernsey too, didn't we?
We did, mate. Yeah, I really enjoyed that. Guernsey was a good run ashore. Nice to get a double header in there. Obviously, we finally got our first women's game out of the way. So obviously, you were down at Havant the other day. How did that go, mate? How was it? How was it nice to sort of break into women's rugby?
Yeah, it's brilliant. I mean, look, women's rugby is something that we follow anyway. Obviously, I know you're quite fond of our Red Roses. I am too. We speak about the women's game quite a lot and the players that we watch. So it was good to actually go and cover a game, and I'd really hope that we're going to be able to do more of that, because the message was quite clear from the people I spoke to down there, Tash and Matt from Havant and Kat from Hackney, that they want to grow this game. From obviously the women's game, it's a great product. We're seeing that week in, week out with the women's Prem. We're seeing it with the women's Six Nations. The Red Rose is leading the charge in that. So it's something that, it was really good. It was good to see the kind of the slightly different perspectives that they come up with, the different challenges that they face. See what they're doing to tackle it, and really, really good bunch down at Hampton, and the ones on the ladies and gents, and that really nice bunch of people too. Obviously passionate about what they do and growing the game. So it's a real privilege.
How did it feel being outgunned by a World Cup winner?
Well, I think the fact that she's got
You
a
got
World
out,
Cup
you got out angled, mate.
out.
You really picked the wrong angle there, mate. Because
I don't even think it was about angles. I think I could have been stood a foot closer to the camera, and Cat's guns would have made mine look puny. No, she is like like thoroughbred athlete, just absolutely shredded, muscle upon muscle. Yeah, fair play to her. But yeah, I mean, you know, you don't win World Cups not putting in the effort, do you, out on the training field week in, week out. And it's good to see that she's kind of carried that on, into retirement from playing.
Would you
So yeah,
notice that she was a World Cup winner if you didn't know that before you sort of chatted to her? Was she just
well,
really down to earth when you were saying?
oh, she was, yeah, brilliant, really nice. So friendly, kind of, and even down to the point where, I was saying, I mean, perhaps a bit of lack of professionalism on my part. I was saying before, I was having nightmares the night before that none of my kit was working because it was a new phone, a new setup, and I started panicking. She was like, "Well, I tell you what, if it's no good, come and find me, and we'll do it again later." What an absolute gem. And she, we spoke about what she's doing now, which is great. But as I said to her, we spoke about her coaching, online coaching business and her PT business, the great work she's doing down at Hackney and how she transitioned into that from playing. As I said to her, it'd be remiss of me not to mention that wonderful day in 2014, which I'm sure you remember well as yourself, Carl, about lifting that trophy and all that went into it. It was quite an interesting take from someone like that, because you just think it's going to be jubilation the second that final whistle goes, and she told a slightly different story of what it was like, because she'd had 4 years, having missed out 4 years before. She played in some Sevens World Cup. Just getting over that line was just such a big thing for her and the team.
And now we're obviously in World Cup year as well, so the World Cup is in England this time round, and what an event and what a spectacle it's going to be for women's rugby. So obviously I managed to catch up with the likes of Bimba and Claudia Pena and Larissa from Brazil as well. So the Spain and Brazil have both qualified for the World Cup this time round, and what an event it's going to be. What a place to be able to put it on, and hopefully the Red Roses can finally get that back over the line again.
You'd like to think so, yeah. And it's, I mean, women's rugby's on the map now. I think it's fair to say, they're getting record crowds. I think in no small part, Iona Mayer's helped out with some of that. But the game was growing before too.
Yeah.
We saw like record crowds down at Kingsholm, didn't we, for like Six Nations games last year. Finals being played at Twickenham, aren't they? And I just think this will really solidify the position, and particularly in this country, if the Red Roses can get over the line, which I think us England supporters have got every confidence in that they can. What a spectacle! What a jewel in the crown for sporting achievements that'll be for our country, and hopefully the game in general.
100%, mate, and it will take a miracle performance by another team, I think, for the Red Roses to be dislodged from that spot. But it's the other teams that are going to be in attendance that are going to be able to be put on the biggest stage world rugby's going to have to offer for them at the minute, like the likes of Spain being able to come across, and obviously Canada coming back across, Brazil, and just the whole level of standard rugby is going to be phenomenal, and as you said, a lasting effect for the game. And we're able to actually discuss that in a couple of weeks' time, because I'm going to release that now. We've actually got Simon Middleton coming on to come on, and I've had him lined up for a little while, and we finally managed to pin him down. So a couple of episodes after this, we're going to have Simon Middleton, ex-England women's manager, on to discuss how the Red Roses got on during the Six Nations, and how they got on or will get on in the World Cup, and how women's rugby's progressed, and obviously managed to catch up about everything he does in rugby, where he's been, what he's done, and obviously on that. And I'll try not to push him too hard, but maybe we get to talk about that final and what may have gone wrong, but we'll see how that one goes, shall we? But yeah, no, this is going to be released on our 1 year anniversary, pretty much. So this is coming out on a year since Rugby TTL started, and I'm still amazed how one crackpot idea has become where it is now. And like I remember texting you, Buster, a couple of other lads, and they were like, "Yeah, cool, mate. Like, hope it works out. Yeah, it sounds really good." And then, and then obviously, 6 months later, you guys sort of joined the fold, and it's kind of accelerated from there. But we're nowhere near the start, in my opinion. I think we can go even further. There's a lot more going on behind the scenes. Obviously, we've got some new stash. We just done the Your Club stash piece as well. Obviously, where we've managed to finally get our new kit decided that we want to roll out, which obviously we've discussed briefly, but I want to try and bring it out as part of the Rugby TTL to support players that haven't got a club yet but want to have a kit to go and train in, etc., etc. So that's kind of where the idea come from, and I know you had a big affiliation to sort of Kick Six, was it the quarters and stuff like that? And obviously you loved the banded one, which was very Bristol Bears, didn't you?
Yeah.
But
I was showing my bias there, but I think us middle-aged lads, as Buster's pointing out, horizontal stripes aren't particularly forgiving. If you built like Cap Merchant, you can get away with horizontal stripes, make you look even more jacked.
That's it.
I can't, but I think the true winner shone through. I think that was your favourite from the start, wasn't it, Carl? There wasn't any behind the scenes dodgy voting going on, was there?
No, it didn't need to be, mate. Everyone liked it, didn't they? So
obviously, I've just got bad taste.
Yeah, pretty much.
But no, they were all good designs, to be fair, weren't they? I think I'd have been happy with any of them. But yeah, no, it'd be good. So, I mean, I think it's a good design, like you say. Hopefully, it'd be good to see a few people out there wearing them.
Yeah, so obviously, I sort of shared that information with Your Club stash as well. So we're sorting that, and there's some other discussions between us and them to hopefully help other grassroots clubs, which will be hopefully released in future episodes, etc. So that'll be really cool. We've also managed to sort out a couple of sponsorships as well. So we're actually going to be sponsoring the Flaming Unicorns again. So we're going to be on their kit alongside for them for the Heart of Wales Sevens tournament as well. So that's going to be really, really exciting to help a men's mental health charity within rugby as well. Obviously, I managed to don the kit. They've also asked if I'm available to make it back to play for the Heart of Sevens, but might not be able to. So Adam and his disabled ankle might have to go as our representative instead.
Yeah.
But obviously, you've been around the game quite a bit now, obviously going to grassroots games. Have you got the bug to get back playing? I know you're fully crocked and like really old, but like, have you sort of thought, right, I actually need to put my boots back on here?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I think when you're around it that much, as you've alluded to, I'm not without various injuries and things, but there's people who play who are a lot older than me, and I can't say a lot more injured because you've seen the state of my ankle, haven't you? But yeah, absolutely, yeah. No,
I think we might have to do a special pod episode about your ankle, like just how bad it is. Because I don't think anyone believes how bad your ankle actually is.
Yeah. I mean, we're trying to gain viewers. I think that might put a lot of people off once they see the grotesque.
OnlyFans is a thing. They might have a fetish for it as well. We might make some money that way. You never know.
Yeah, well, I'm not here to judge anyone's kinks. So if it can bring in more viewers, I'll definitely show my ankles, mate. Don't you worry about that.
That's it. Make sure you subscribe for any of that's going to happen in the future. All right.
Yeah, but no, definitely. I mean, I think you do when you're down there. You do think, oh, could I, put my hand up for a game at some point. I mean, I think time constraints at the moment might stop me doing that, but certainly if an opportunity presented itself for any charity games we might be participating in, yeah, absolutely. I'll turn up and give away a few penalties and But no, I mean, obviously, I think it's sort of pulled you back in again, hasn't it, Carl? I know
Yeah.
moving to Spain, I think perhaps your focus was to be on the coaching, but you're managing to keep a bit of hand in with both at the moment. You're seeing a bit of an Indian summer in terms of your rugby career, aren't you? Apart from a couple of
the coaching's come to
mishaps.
an end, so I've had to sort of step aside from the coaching due to obviously the Rugby TTL stuff getting busier. So the under-16s finished their season 2 weeks ago. We unfortunately hit the crossbar. Didn't quite get there. We lost in the semi-final. We had a few injuries. We also had a red card after 10 minutes, which didn't help. But the boys have developed as men, has developed as players, and they've found a love for the game, which I'm just glad to have been a part of. And the parents have numerously said thanks for everything that they've done. Some of them going to come and play for the S18s next year, which will be able to train alongside the seniors that I'm going to carry on. So I've decided, I reckon I've got at least another year or two left in me, I think. I've managed to shift 17 kilos since I've got back in the seat, thanks to the bending barbell, John Clark, obviously online coaching, England deaf player, still managing to smash things up even at the ripe old age of, I think he's about 37, 38, still putting on an England shirt. It's phenomenal, top bloke. And just really down to earth with it as well. So he's another prop to prop, being able to just tell me stop eating like a pig, make sure you get in the gym.
Yeah, he's I remember his like strength accolades when he was doing more of the strong 400 kilo deadlift, wasn't it? Yeah.
He ain't got a spine. He ain't got a spine left for it, but he's got some numbers behind it.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone can get you get in your rig looking like Max Laheath's, there's a prop to to get your rig looking like. It'll be John, I think.
Yeah, he's a phenomenal bloke, and hopefully a future guest on the pod as well. So we've we've obviously managed to get round a few places on Grassroots Rugby Days. I'm going to put you on the spot. Who and where what's been your highlights, rather than saying what's been the best? What's the highlights that you can pick out of? Because we've had some probably what people would put down as glamour ties, should we say? There's some sheds. There's been some aircraft hangars, effectively.
Yeah.
Like, we've had some various places to go and explore grassroots rugby. What's been your highlights from where you've been?
I would have to say, because you can't pick out any one club. In terms of moments, I think the rugby against cancer, brilliant evening despite the weather. Just seeing kind of everyone coming together for a common cause. That's affects a lot of people. It affected the organizer. That was a real special one to go to. And just everyone getting involved. You had players who were playing for Harlequins not too long ago.
Yeah.
You had players who had no cartilage left in their knees. You had blokes in their 50s, and everything in between. So that was a real special evening. You could probably argue that's more a bit of a glamour tie, because obviously you've got some of those, star-studded names in there.
Yeah.
Petersfield, great day, just brilliant facilities. Really good to chat to everyone down there when they face Chichester. I think for me though, I'd have to say the first one, just how it really epitomised everything about the grassroots game for me. To put my head above the parapet. This is a club who don't have a clubhouse at the moment. It's being built. They had their little like plasterer's table with selling cans of beer and things like that. There was no bar. The weather was chucking it down, and we're doing interviews in a storage shed. And I think obviously it being the first one was nerve-wracking, exhilarating. But I think in terms of just painting the picture of what it's like at that grassroots level and getting the word out there, and all the different I spoke to the groundskeeper as well. That was a really, really good one, and will always hold good memories for that reason. If you're gonna start off on one, I think that was a really great one to start at. And obviously we joke because you were over in the sun at the time, and where I was, it was raining sideways, and the tripod kept falling over too. Yeah. So at one point I was having to hold the camera out shivering, and we even lost some of the footage. So it seems like a strange one to pick as a real special standout. But yeah, that just straight in the deep end.
I think I was actually at the Spain-Fiji game.
I think you were.
I think I was up in Valladolid watching Spain-Fiji, and you were at Hook and Odium in torrential storm weather.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I suppose, to put you on the spot, what would you say has been yours since you've been doing it?
Oh, wow. Obviously, Petersfield were always more than welcoming. Millbrook was a really good one to get across to. Obviously, managed to pull on my boots, which was unplanned. But I'd actually left my boots in there just in case they needed an extra player. So I managed to play for the Flaming Unicorns, which was really, really good fun. I got a special place as well for Newbury. Everything they'd done to sort of potentially trigger my idea as well, alongside a couple of others, about the grassroots days of going out to watching clubs and being able to share that message. And they did a couple of games up there, and they're brilliant. I'm really, really glad they avoided relegation as well, because they obviously, it went down to the last game of the season in Regional 2. So I'm really, really glad they avoided it, and I'm hoping we can get back up there in the new season as well, and see where they're going to put that club back where it was as well, because they're unreal up there. They've got a really good women's side as well, so it'd be good to add that to the list of places we'd go. Obviously, Guernsey, double header. I've never been to Guernsey, so it was nice to get that tagged onto the list, and being able to watch a Nat 2 game as well as obviously a Counties 1 game. They were more than welcoming over at Guernsey, and we had a good little tour there, mate. That was good fun. Obviously went over to Sandown. Sandown was... I've never played there, but I have been there as a under-16s coach when I was at Gosport, and obviously I feel like I was the curse. I was like the end of the Gosport promotion charge. I know they'd slipped up, but fuck me, they blew up after that. So maybe I'm never allowed back at Gosport.
You got too many mates there, haven't you? Now, it's impossible to pick one. Like, even it's like Chinham, brilliant.
Oh,
what a club! So welcoming, and like one of the funniest moments I think that pushed my level of professionalism to its limits was one of the post-match games, and we were right near like the balcony bit where people were drinking.
Oh yeah.
Doing an interview, and he was getting mercilessly heckled, and which is what you expect. Look, I mean, it's grassroots rugby. It'd be weird if something that wasn't going on, but stood there trying not to laugh during the interview was definitely a challenge.
Well, you messaged me afterwards as like, you might have to edit some of this out. I can't, and also it's rugby. Like, if he's being called a nonce and everything like that, that's his problem with his mates. Like, we've all been amongst what rugby lads will do, and that is rugby, and that's where we are, and that's how the game is. But obviously for next season, obviously we want to try and get some sevens stuff in, I believe, in the summer, if you agree as well. Like, it'd be nice to get some more women's games. I think the sevens season is going to be really good. I think we might miss the boat on some of the cup games because of half terms, etc., etc. But
I think the cup games, the sevens is a big opportunity. The women's games, and looking into next season, I'd love to be able to myself maybe get a little bit further afield. Desperate to get down to Bristol, as we've mentioned, down to Thornbury. Where I used to live. That'd be a great opportunity. But just start pushing out a little bit further. Revisit some of the clubs we've been to. Maybe cover some of the games that the teams that were the away team last time. let's get down there and see what they're about.
Yeah, so we've actually in another couple of, I think it's the episode after Simon Middleton coming up. We've got another Instagram grassroots account coming on. So lads from Rugby Roots,
Mm.
and we'll be discussing a lot more about grassroots rugby with them as well, etc. Because they're current players, they've got a similar mindset to what we want to do, and really good bunch of lads from what I've been able to speak to them about, and want to really run over what the relegation promotion reprieve process was with the RFU, because seems to be yet another significant fuck up by the RFU where people didn't know until about till the last game of the season who was going up, who was going down, and obviously they kept sending out the world's smallest document as well, which made it even harder for people to read and understand. So those boys seem to have got a really good handle of it, because I kind of gave up a little while. As soon as I looked at it, I was like, I can't read it, far too old, can't see. So they got a really good handle of it. So it'd be really good to see how that falls as well. And obviously where you're located, there's a good chance we can get a few more leagues in as well. So it'd be good to get into the Surrey leagues and sort of South London as well, I think, because we've definitely got some bits and really want to bring other people on as well. So obviously if you guys want to join what we're doing and be part of where we're going as well, we're the door's open. Like, you're not going to get paid. We don't get paid. There is no money in it. But there's the love of the game. So if you're retiring or just generally shit at rugby but like talking about it and want to still be part of it, give us a shout. Instagram, subscribe, follow, do all that sort of stuff. Give us a shout because we want you. And yeah, we just want to carry on the movement across as far as we can go. We've got a good few links now into Rugby Europe through All Things Rugby. So obviously, All Things Rugby have been a real big push for us as at Rugby TTL. Well, predominantly me. Obviously, it's allowed me to travel a bit of Europe. Adam's had to go to Hook and Odium in the pouring rain. I've managed to go to the Estadio Nacional in Portugal and Lisbon and stuff. So, and obviously up into Madrid a couple of times. So it's been hard.
Well, I mean, obviously you've had your pick of games in the blister and sunshine. However, I will have to say I am glad to say I haven't had any catastrophic vehicle failures like you suffered on your way back. That was back from Portugal, wasn't it? That one 10-hour, 11-hour trip, and your van gave up halfway through.
Yeah,
God.
Yeah, I finally got it back about two weeks ago. So it took about just over 3 weeks for it to be recovered from just outside Sevilla. And my mate who owns a garage was like, mate, it's going to be 6 weeks before I can even look at it. So I've had to go and dismantle the top of the engine outside his garage. And I think I've royally fucked it. There's a lot of metal, shall we say, in piston one. So
More than should be in there.
yeah.
Yeah, so obviously, you've had some of those more glamorous trips, but yeah, I definitely didn't envy that one.
I was kind of disappointed there wasn't any flames or any sort of explosion, so I couldn't have like recorded any of it and made it look good. It just went, nah, fuck you, I'm not working any longer, and I had to crawl into a petrol station.
I mean, with the editing skills you've picked up along the way, I'm surprised you didn't do that yourself.
Just a load of flashbangs and stuff like that with the dog in the van with me, just wondering what was going on. So
slow motion diving through the air away from the explosion, that'd have been perfect. Imagine the views we'd have got.
But we've managed to, through that, get a few more guests. So Mario Bacardi's going to be coming on in about July, I believe. So just before Spain's tour to America. So that's going to be really good. So we've got him coming on. We've got Justin Middleton coming on next week, who's the Rugby Europe commentator as well. So who's managed to cover all of the games throughout. So that's been really, really good fun. to obviously catch up with him and be able to chat Rugby Europe and how well that went this year ahead of whatever's going to happen. I know, obviously, all things rugby managed to throw a hand grenade in a lot of Welsh fans' laps with an article that I did with them, and the ATR Cup. So that went down like a lead balloon with a lot of Welsh fans, which was quite funny. They're still commenting on it now, like 6 weeks later or however long later. So it still seems to be recycling in their pool of hatred of anything that's outside of dismissing Welsh rugby at the minute. And obviously today Cardiff have announced they're going to probably go into administration. So yeah,
it's a terrible look. I mean, look, we growing up watching it.
It's an easy target. Obviously, being English, it's an easy target picking on the Welsh, and they're saying, "Oh, you've all waited for it." Yes, we have. Like, we have waited for all of those years that you've done pretty well, and now we've waited for it, and we're taking full advantage of it. And I'm 100% sure the Welsh would be doing exactly the same to any English cohort that would have gone seriously wrong as well. So it's easy to call pot kettle black, but when it's on the other foot, it's not so pretty. But it'd be horrendous to see Cardiff go. And I was catching up with somebody earlier, Hugh Griffin, who had done the episode about Spanish rugby the other week. Obviously, being a proud Welshman that he is, as soon as it came out, I dropped him a voice note, and he goes, "Cardiff rugby will not be allowed to go bust. They're going to sacrifice one of the other regions, probably to make sure that there is not a lack of rugby in the Welsh capital."
Yeah.
What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, look, banter aside, love it when England beat Wales. Having worked in Cardiff for a time,
more than a beating. That was more than a beating.
But as much as we love that, you want when you beat them, you want it to be a level playing field. We all go for our peaks and troughs in terms of performances. They've got a good few Grand Slams to their name over the last 20 years. But yeah, when you see Cardiff, the heart of rugby, not in terms, obviously not from a grassroots perspective, but in terms of the pinnacle, you've got, the Millennium or Principality Stadium there, to see a club that's, so close to it in such peril boggles the mind. I think if someone had said this to you 10 years ago, some people knew there were issues at play. Don't think I was one of those people. You'd have been shocked at the current state of how things are now. You had players threatening to go on strike 2 years ago, 3 years ago maybe. These are blokes who've grown up, whether you agree with it or disagree with it, these are blokes who've grown up, rugby's in their veins, they probably grew up wanting to represent their country. Hearing that national anthem the first time they take the field at the Principality is what they dreamed of. So for them to be in a state when they're threatening to go on strike, and I think it was even before an England game, wasn't it?
It was before an England game, yeah.
Tells you a lot, doesn't it? So, love to beat them, but hate to see the current state of affairs is perhaps the only way I could summarise it.
World rugby needs Welsh rugby. And I'll put my hands up and say that it is needed, and you need a competitive Wales to make it where it is because of how long they've been embedded within the game. And I really feel sorry for Jack Morgan, potentially. In their current state, is he going to become another Sergio Parise?
Yeah. Does it impact his Lions' chances in any way, shape or form? Or will the coaches know that he's doing enough? I mean, look, the back row, if you look at the back row across, all of the home nations, it's a very, very stacked area in terms of selection. But will they be able to look at that in isolation and go, yeah, the players who deserve to be there will be there?
At bare minimum, he will be going as the bin juice captain, in my opinion. I think he'll go midweek captain. I and if he doesn't start one, maybe at least one test and be on the bench for the other two, I can't see a Lions tour without him. How good he is! He's just an exceptional talent at the age, and to come back he's recently just not long had quite a serious injury as well. He was out for a fair period of time, which really hampered Wales as well. And I think obviously they've got a bit of a resurgence under him. And how much do you lay at Gatland's door? Do you think Gatland took the job back at the wrong time, or was it Gatland's fault, or is it just the whole thing is just shagged and just needs recovering from start to finish?
Look, I mean, you could argue there are a few questionable choices in terms of leaving certain people out. I think was it Anscombe got brought in after he went.
Don't play you 10 at 10. That's basically what it
Yeah,
was.
but I think so. My view, what tells me it's more fucks than perhaps I'd first realised, because once you got that slight bounce back when Gatland won, they looked a bit better. I think it was Ireland, they put a relatively good show on against, and you think they've got England in Cardiff, they've lost a record amount of games. This could, right a lot of wrongs. It could, in the eyes of a lot of those fans, if, like it or not, still love beating England, that could have, healed a lot of wounds in that regard. I'm not saying it would have solved the issues, but to get pumped like that by, their greatest rivals, that tells me something is proper fucked there. And I don't know. I don't know what the route back looks like. You'd like to think they'd make it back, but I don't know when it's going to come or how long it's going to take or how it's going to happen. Any thoughts on that from you?
Good question. They've got an exceptional under-20s team. They've got an exceptional pathway. But how many of them gets lost to the system because they don't play in Wales because there is not enough regions left because
Yeah.
one of them's about to go in the bin? One way or the other, one of them's going to go in the bin. And whether it's Cardiff or not, one of them's going in the bin because they can't afford to keep all four running. So Welsh rugby's about to lose 50 pro players,
Mm.
and they've got to seriously look at it and say, actually, we're just going to say you can go play anywhere in the world to be able to get called up now, because there's no other way around it. That's the only way they're going to be able to save Welsh rugby at a national level,
Yeah.
by allowing them to go to France, go to all these other places to make sure they make the money they deserve, rather
Yeah.
than centralised contracting them, saying you've got to have 60 caps if you go anywhere else.
It's not working, is it?
It's not not when you've got a player pool of that small, but then also only have potentially 3 regions to play in. No, it's just not going to work. I think
Yeah.
the only place that's potentially got a smaller player pool in Europe, Rugby Europe at the minute, is Switzerland. So Switzerland have got a 5,000 players registered to play rugby in Switzerland at a level roughly 5,000,
So
and
you
they
saying the likes of Spain and Portugal now have more registered players
yeah
eligible than even Wales do?
yeah
Wow. Okay.
because of the grassroots. Like so in Portugal you've got the top 12, so you've got 12 pro teams. Is there elite level rugby within Portugal? So you're looking 40, 50 players each team potentially. So that's 600 players there registered at an elite level. Plus all the players that are going and playing in France, going and playing across wherever. Then you've got Spain. You've got Division d'Honor's got 12. 12. Yeah, so you're looking the squads are maybe a little bit smaller in Spain, so maybe 35. But then you've got the Division d'Honneur B. Then you've got all the players in the Pro 14 in France. Then you've got players in the Pro de Deux. Then you got Wales have got a very limited pool of talent, but they do so well for what they produce. But if you reduce that even further and only have 3 regions that are playing top level rugby in the URC, where are they all going to go if you're not allowing them to go and play in other leagues to play for their nation? There's
Yeah,
no other option left for them, I don't think.
running out of ideas. I mean, you mentioned the regions. I mean, that could be a whole podcast episode in and of itself. But I've got friends who are, even longer in the tooth than I am. One of my friends who I work with, grew up in Neath.
Yeah.
Loved going down and watching Neath play. Heard some brilliant stories from him over the years of his experiences going to watch him. And that was one of the things that, he had a big issue with at the time. Was them going to the regions and what they kind of lost in doing that. Yeah. And how to him at the time he felt like it would be an issue at some point down the line. Unfortunately, I don't have that kind of foresight to notice when something like that's going to eventually come back to bite. But yeah, it's best of luck to him. That's all I can say. It's not a problem I'd like to have a go at unpicking.
No, that's it. Obviously, Rugby Europe, I know we've lightly touched on it as well, but Spain 2035 World Cup bid. I'm sure you obviously have through myself and through the article we've done. But what's your thoughts? Do you think it's needed? Do you think it's the right bid for them at the right time?
Yeah, no, I like the idea. There will be some people who perhaps feel it's more one for the purists and it should be an established rugby nation hosting a World Cup. I don't agree with it. I think, we've said before, Carl, the likes of Spain are a good sporting nation when you look at their... Sorry to always bring things back to football, as we often do when talking about this game. If you look at their sporting prowess from a football standpoint, very, very good. Recent, obviously, broke our hearts, but won the recent Euros. They've won World Cups. They've won back-to-back European champions 2008 and 2012. They have got the makings of a good rugby nation. It's going to take time, obviously, but I think a World Cup would help massively with that. And they've got the infrastructure to deal with it from a getting about point of view, but also from being able to accommodate an event like that. You'll know more about the kind of rugby stadiums they got over there, but I dare say they'll probably commandeer some of the existing football stadiums in order to be able to put an event like that on. So I'm all for it, and obviously, if that means I can go over and watch the World Cup in Spain, no bias on my part there, having a few Spanish beers in the sun, but yeah, that's my view. I'm all for it. I imagine, I dare say it's something that you would be quite on board with as well, not just because you're living there and it would be easy to get to. I know you're quite passionate about rugby in Europe and in particular Spain as well.
I think as I wrote in the article, the only thing that potentially lets Spain down is they haven't actually got a single rugby stadium that would be able to accommodate a World Cup. There isn't a single rugby stadium in Spain that is built to any sort of capacity, so you'd have to lean on La Liga. Obviously, you'd either have to play during the summer, which obviously out here is going to be above warm, should we say? So yeah, it's going to be pretty filthy playing in 100% humidity pretty much and 40 odd degree heat during the heat of summer, which is going to be hard. But obviously, looking at the other bids that are being thrown about, you've got Qatar, Saudi and UAE looking at putting a bid together for the same periods, and Japan will be the safe bid. That'd be the easy one for World Rugby to pick because they've already done it. It'll be 16 years after they'd done the last one.
Done a great
Easy.
job as well.
They've done a really good job. It'd be a really safe, easy bid. UAE, Saudi and Qatar would be money based, so not on rugby merit at all. So that would be, they would have a lot more questions around the integrity of the game potentially than what would actually be merit based. Spain would be the perfect fit. Imagine that being able to play the Rugby World Cup final in either the Bernabeu, which has just been redone, the Nou Camp, or Atletico Stadium, or just any of those grounds. Just being able to split the Spain national team between Madrid and Barcelona, or obviously, and then being able to go and play games in Valladolid, and being able to play games down in Alicante or Elche and stuff like that, and being able to spread across into like Sevilla. You've got Real Betis, you've got Sevilla's stadium. They're literally 2.5 miles apart, something like that. They're really close as well. You've got Valencia's just redoing the Mestalla. You've got unreal network of football stadiums. Is going to be the issue. It's football.
Yeah.
That's the only downside to me, that it is a football ground. But who knows? If they win the 2035 bid, they might say, actually, we're going to build a rugby stadium in Madrid. Obviously, they currently use the university ground, which is where I went to cover the Georgia game and the Holland game as well, which was, it's a great little stadium. But there's no seats, limited. There's not really a bar. There's limited safety. It's all those bits that they've got to add up that they won't be allowed on a World Cup bid. Getting around Spain's easy. Like, you got the train, you got the planes, you got every bit of perfect access to get around. But I think the only thing that may hold them back is the bid with the non-rugby stadiums and how that would fit in alongside La Liga. But Spain are holding the Football World Cup alongside Portugal and Morocco in 2030, I believe. So it's not like they're going to be short of hosting a good few really big sporting events and being able to showcase how that goes. So it'd be nice to see if they did it as a joint bid between Spain and Portugal for 2035. I think it'd be a really good showcase of Rugby Europe. Yeah, I'd love to obviously have it on my doorstep, you know that. And I think a lot of people would love to see it in somewhere other than that. And I think a few people put comments on about having it in the Pacific Islands and stuff like that, going to Fiji and stuff, and fully on board. But
yeah, totally, yeah. You know,
problem is you got to sort out the corruption and the fucking how badly run those nations are. They don't even pay the lads. They don't pay for them to travel. They don't pay for all the other bits, let alone hosting a World Cup where most of the money is going to go in somebody else's back pocket than actually improving in the facilities. But yeah, sorry, mate. I had to have that little rant because it's just not feasible at the minute. They're just so poorly run.
No, I agree with you. You do hear some of the horror stories, and there's a documentary out there a couple of years ago on it, wasn't there, as well? And yeah, I agree. You know, when corruption is prevalent as it seems to be over there, you do want that money to be used in the right way. And unfortunately, it does put a bit of a black mark on it for them hosting it. As much as you'd love it, you know, obviously I think it owes a lot to the Pacific Islanders and, you know, those nations. I don't think there's many, not, you know, people's list of top 10, 20 players that wouldn't have a good few of those players from that part of the world in there.
Yeah.
You know, I think Fiji are kind of everyone's second team, aren't they? You know, for the most part, everyone loves watching Fiji play. So yeah, it would be good to see him have it. But yeah, also Spain. But yeah, obviously it's not without its challenges.
No, I think there's a few moving parts, and I think obviously World Rugby have probably got to understand all of it first, and hopefully they don't just get blindsided what the money that's probably going to be put on offer, shall we say. We've actually got an interview with Steve Noble from Rugby Asia. He's coming on in good few episodes time, so we've got a little while yet. But he manages to. He's covering a bit of the Asia World Cup qualification period as well, so we managed to catch up with him after that, which we'll see how that ties into Belgium. Obviously, managing to qualify through the 5th spot in the REC. I'll be able to give us a really good opinion on how those nations will be able to compete against the likes of Belgium and stuff going into the November qualifiers as well. So that's going to be really good fun to understand how that goes. But yeah, so obviously adds Rugby TTL, mate. What's your plans? What do you want? Where do you want us to be? Where do you want us to go? I know we've got some big plans and we discuss a lot of stuff, and obviously we want to try and stick to our roots about Grassroots, and obviously with the Rugby Europe stuff. But I know you've got a real passion around Bristol as well, and obviously what's your opinion of their season? How do you think that's going? Do you want to share that with more often as well? I don't know if that's something that people would like to hear, like an unbiased opinion.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't know if I can share an unbiased opinion when it comes to Bristol, as you know. But yeah, absolutely. I mean, would love to be able to do a bit more reporting and putting my thoughts and feelings across on different levels of games too. You know, the ones that I watch. I spend a lot of time watching rugby, so it would be a shame not to perhaps put some of that to use in what we do here in the podcast. I think ultimately, you know, this is more pie in the sky, pipe dream stuff. I think what would one day be the goal. I mean, our purpose is to shine a light on grassroots rugby, isn't it? And it would be nice to get it to a position where, you know, you're not having to focus on so much of the issues that people are facing. Hopefully get to a point maybe where a lot of these challenges that people are facing are resolved.
Yeah.
You know, and the grassroots rugby, although we do that, we talk a lot about the successes. It becomes more about those successes and, you know, all the numbers of people that are getting involved, and, you know, people aren't having to wait months and years to get clubhouses built and stuff like that. But yeah, you know, definitely want to get down to cover some games, you know, further afield. Hopefully my schedule next season will allow me to do a bit more of that, and I can start getting in the party bus and driving a little bit further with my little bag of tricks and conducting some interviews here, there and everywhere, I'd hope.
You managed to get along to a Bristol Bears Harlequins youth game, didn't you?
Yeah.
Obviously, managed to not get any content due to what it was and who it was and where it was, etc. But like we discussed it afterwards. What is the level of those players that are in that pathway? Because like we know that we discuss about how do people get into that pathway, but how good are they?
Yeah, very good. I mean, I was fortunate. So I was fortunate. So I got to give a shout out to my friend Ben, who is a ref here in Surrey, and he got the opportunity to be one of the officials at the game. So mentioned to me, knowing that I'm, you know, a Bristol Bears supporter, so down I went in my jersey. But I did bring my kit with me on the off chance I might be able to speak to someone.
I thought you meant you brought your boots. I was like, they're not that desperate.
Yeah, he said they said under 16s. I thought they said over 60s. No. So yeah, they. You know, funny enough, I was chatting to a few of the dads there who were down there watching their boys, the Bristol lads, playing, and we were just talking about the difference between these 16-year-old lads now compared to what we were like. You know, huge difference. They, you know, I'm not saying people weren't dedicated before, they obviously were, but these lads live in the gym. Yeah. They're not trying to go and, you know, perhaps the likes of you and me, Carl, might have been drinking White Lightning in a park somewhere when we shouldn't have been at an impressionable age. These lads aren't about that life at all. They're less worried about, you know, trying to get their oldest looking mate to go buy them beer fags. They live in the gym, take their supplements, and yeah, they were good. The speed of it—that's what I couldn't believe. Just the speed of the game, and yeah, it didn't look like you were watching lads of that age playing. They could have been 20 years old.
Really?
Yeah, I think we've seen some of that in the the under-20s game as well. When you look at the quality we're getting there now.
Well, look at Henry Pollock. He ain't too bad, is it? He's not. He's just above average, isn't he? I reckon.
He's pulling up trees, isn't he? And he's what is he, 20?
Going on the Lions tour, do you reckon?
I don't know. I think where he plays, I just wonder if there's too much else in terms of competition.
Is he going to go as a bag carrier? Is he going to go there and just get the experience? Like Buster loves the development squad, the players that are around the bit. Do you reckon he's worth going there as part of that?
I mean, I don't know if he was in any other. I mean, yeah, I'll rate him highly. I mean, he was under-20 World Cup winner last year, wasn't he?
Didn't do too bad. Two tries against Wales.
Yeah, 2 tries against Wales. He's been doing absolute bits, hasn't he? Whether he'll be ready for a Lions call-up now.
Do you reckon he goes midweek? Goes and plays along the other side to Jack Morgan in the midweek team?
Yeah. I mean, absolutely. I just think if it was any other position, well, then again, not even any other. That back row though, if you look at the back row across Ireland, Scotland, England. Look, the Curry twins. Ben Earl. No, who?
Caelan Doris. Who's your Lions captain?
Bloody hell, that's a good question. I haven't really thought of it.
Before the end of the Six Nations, I was adamant it was Caelan Doris.
Yeah.
But I've got an inkling that it's going to be Itoje. I think Itoje turned into a completely different animal. I don't rate him as highly as many do.
No.
But I've got a feeling he's turned a corner.
I think, yeah, he has in terms of captaincy. I think he got away with one against Scotland, didn't he? with that turnover. Not quite as much of a penalty machine as he has been previously.
As soon as you're not allowed to kick in a ruck, that fucks Itoje. That was the end of Itoje's ability in turnovers at times, because he was phenomenal just being able to wade in with his size 54 feet and just kick everything out of the way. But
I think there's a case for him though. But I have to think with it being Andy Farrell, he'll go Doris, won't he?
Yeah, I can't think of anyone else.
Yeah, and a very worthy choice in my opinion.
Jack Willis go?
I mean, how good has he been over in France? Oh, hang on, have I got the wrong? My Willis is around the wrong way.
No, Tom Willis.
Yeah, no, it is, isn't it? Yeah.
But it's Jack Willis. Does he go? Like, because he hasn't played, does he go? Does Courtney Laws in the conversation? Do you see Owen Farrell on the bench? Do you see him on the bus?
That's a funny one, isn't it, with it being his dad as well? No, I don't know about Laws because he's playing in the D2 and I don't know. I mean, I rate him highly, but I think at his age and the fact that he's playing in the second tier, I think that might make their decision easier not to include him.
Jack Willis then.
Yeah, I've got one for you then. Who's starting at fly half?
I don't think you can look past Finn Russell.
Yeah. That's it for me. I mean, I know he had a shocker with the boot, didn't he? But I think
if he got to take 4 fly halves effectively, and I think it's going to be Finn that starts. Finn Smith will be the backup for, I think, in that. Then you'll have Sam Prendergast and Marcus Smith.
You think Prendergast over Crowley?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Crowley's dropped off. I think he's an exceptional 10, but I think he's off to France. He looked
Right.
really struggle in the last game as well. He really struggled in that last game for Ireland when he had the opportunity to step up against Italy and just couldn't lead the team in the way that he used to be able to. I think there was a big question mark around him leading into it, and Brendergast, he's just raw. He's a liability, but he's also exceptionally talented at the same time, and I think that just comes with game time. It's no different to what Marcus Smith was as slash is. Like, I don't know why we keep wasting him at fullback, but if we don't think he's the best 10 in England, why do you put him at fullback just to think he's going to make something there?
Yeah, yeah,
If you're going to back Finn Smith, you back Finn Smith, and then you obviously have to use Marcus Smith as that impact player.
yeah.
I think Marcus Smith potentially lost a lot of credit from the Netflix documentary.
Yeah, it didn't paint him in the best light, did it? I mean, I'm sure he's a very nice lad, but yeah, was
Maybe
it the Range Rover and
might have been a bit G wagon, and that might have
G
been a bit
wagon? Yeah, yeah,
bit of a misguided option. Like, I'm fully on board for rugby players having a brand, and I think that's the only way the game moves forward. And as I've previously said, like we've discussed, the game needs players to have shirt numbers. Like,
mm.
I think that's the only way that people can attach themselves to players and create a brand. But I don't think that was the best way he could have created a brand.
No, no. You say it was quite uncomfortable viewing, and not because he came across as arrogant or anything like that. I suppose, yeah, it's just
It was potentially misguided. I don't think
yeah,
it looked.
misguided.
It didn't put him in the best of light. But I don't. That's no reflection on his ability.
No,
I just. I don't know. I don't know if he's the best 10. I think he's an exceptional rugby player, but I don't know.
yeah,
I could, just his speed and stuff like that. I'd love to see him at 9. Imagine that, just fucking throw a hand grenade. Because Borfoot's got a duty of being able to fuck 9s up. He does pretty
oh,
well at destroying 9s. So, like,
how many
maybe we
times
need a
have
9 that is a 10. I don't know.
well, how many times have we been excited about the next 9 coming into the fold? Well, once
Rafi Kirk, we've had obviously Van Portfleet.
yeah,
They've all just disappeared into nothingness, and like Alex Mitchell's now our only option, and he
yeah,
seems a shadow of what his ability is playing for England.
yeah, and even like Harry Randall, all biased aside, me being biased aside.
He can't block skip for shit.
Yeah, it does make you wonder what goes on with, because these are talented players. I think Jack Van Porfleet, he had a couple of good games for England. Hey, look, I know it's a different level. There's no denying that. Played really well for them, didn't he?
Yeah.
Scored a worldie of a try the other week in the Prem, didn't he? They've not become bad players.
No.
What is it about this England setup that causes these 9s to implode on the big stage?
Is the sticky plaster firmly back on now to the World Cup? Like, Borfoot's
Well,
he's not going to get sacked now, is he?
no, he won't. I'm glad you brought it up actually, because that was something I wanted to feature about. Was it seems more rosy than it did before the Six Nations, but are you fully convinced? And you can see the way I put that question might tell you that I'm not fully convinced. And people will say, "Oh, stop being so negative, stop being so critical, get behind the team." This is being realistic, and it's born out of a place of being a lifelong England rugby supporter. I want us to win every World Cup we go into.
I'm fully behind the team. I think the team that we've got is potentially one of the better teams in the world. There's something fundamentally wrong within that whole coaching setup. You can't have that many coaches leave. You can't have.
Yeah.
We can't be playing one brand of rugby one week and then the next week the coach has left and we can't get on board with that. You can't have players that are not playing to their full potential without somebody sitting. Like, if that was a business, which the RFU is, that's not a business. If that was a business, you'd be sitting back and saying, hold on, we've got our best performers not performing. What are we doing wrong? And your L&D would be getting fucking raped to make sure that they get the best out of those players.
Yeah.
And if you've got to ask questions that people don't like to hear, then sometimes that's rugby though. Like, we are grown men and grown women that play the game, and you run into people as hard as you physically can. If you can't then ask questions about what you did right or wrong because it might hurt someone's feelings, the game is gone.
Yeah, agreed. No one is above criticism, and
it's not criticism; it's constructive breakdown of what may have gone wrong. If somebody's then fucked up, then you have a constructive conversation with them on how they've fucked up and how we make sure it never happens again. It doesn't need to be finger pointing. It doesn't need to be sacking. It doesn't need to be all of this every time. No. People can still come back and develop and redevelop and change what went wrong by actually realising something went wrong without having to lose their job for it. And I'm the last person to keep saying about managers getting sacked in rugby. I agree that's probably the really good positive that we have in the game. But sometimes people can't move past what they've done wrong to make sure that they can do right in the future. And that's when the point comes that people have got to move on for the best of them and the club and for the nation, etc.
It does make you wonder what happens in sport, though, that you do sometimes get this, the classic definition of insanity when everyone else can see it but you. And look, I know Steve Borthwick is a far superior rugby coach than I would ever be. Mm-hmm. But when you can see the glaringly obvious, what is it about? I mean, we had it with Gareth Southgate with the football team. What is it about coaching sport at that elite level that makes certain people not be able to see the very obvious issues that are at play?
I think it's more down to success. They judge things on how far people go in tournaments rather than progression of players. Like, I think we've kind of moved away from players progressing to how far we actually get in a tournament. Like, obviously England used to be, oh yeah, we didn't do that well, but this player's become this, this and this. And then we've gone flip reverse. We've got to World Cup final or semi-finals. We've got to Euros finals back to back. We've lost all of these tournaments. And then we've judged Gareth Southgate on that. And I feel the same probably happened to potentially Eddie Jones towards the end. He managed to get to the World Cup final in 2019. He got this and this and this. And like, they get a stay of execution because they get to a certain target rather than the RFU setting targets on player progression and player improvement and player development. We've turned our eye off in the game and more focused on results, which is a really contradictory statement because the game is results driven. But I think we've also got to focus on player development for the future and progression of the nation rather than solely just on results.
Yeah,
I know that's a proper riddle there. Of like,
well, no, I think you're right because one will lead to the other ultimately. If we've got this better pathway for players, one, it keeps the game alive because if you don't have new fresh blood coming through all the time, at some point the game will eventually wither on the vine, won't it? But also that will breed success. The more players you have coming through, the bigger player pool you have, the more involvement in the game. Eventually you would have to expect this would start to translate into success at a higher level. But no, I don't think it's as much of a riddle as perhaps your first thought. But I think the big one that I suppose the big shock for me recently, while we're on the subject of all things England, was the vote of confidence for Sweeney, because I was pretty convinced it was going to go the other way from things that articles that I'd read and lots of people coming forth with votes of no confidence. It wasn't what I was expecting, but we've got him. He's not going anywhere.
Yeah, well, that was another curveball of rugby, and rugby being run by money, and that's my biggest fear around the 2035 World Cup bid as well. So on that cliffhanger, we'll leave that there, I think. So thank you everyone for joining. It's been amazing to get the pod back underway. Adam, thank you so much for joining again, mate, and thank you for everything you do on Grassroots Rugby. Anyone that wants to come and join Rugby TTL to be able to push the Grassroots Rugby game forward, please reach out. Also, if you like us rambling about shit and want to hear about the other guests that we've got coming up, just reach out on Instagram. We're on TikTok. We're on Twitter or X or whatever they call it now. LinkedIn, obviously, Facebook, and obviously YouTube. So click that subscribe button, follow, like, share. Make sure you get other people involved, and let's just keep growing the game. Thank you and goodbye.